Hello everybody, update number 3 dropped by the developers of Railborn, and we're going to be looking today at custom ambient occlusion materials for details, loading of huge chunks of your virtual environment, what is Railborn's minimum target GPU, was Railborn really in development for the past 2 years, and of course any news on joining the playtest and or when the alpha will be releasing, along with a couple bonuses. First off, Railborn, for the folks who have not heard this game and don't know anything about it yet, Railborn is a survival game where you build your train piece by piece, navigating a world entangled by branching track, and this is now the 74th top wishlisted game on Steam, at least according to SteamDB, with nearly 30,000 new followers since the game was announced back in June. Whether you've been following this game since the announcement or just discovering this game today, let's dive right in. And first up is custom materials. So one of the things Railborn developers are doing is they are trying to aim for improving in performance and optimization. Keep in mind there's 2 developers, Taki and Smash from Washbear Studio. What they're doing is actually fantastic. Railborn is put together through the Unreal Engine, but it is very easy to develop games on Unreal for the highest ends possible computer and not consider the folks that have low-end computers. And Railborn, they want this game to be able to run on as many computers as possible. They've got to look at different tools and techniques to try to get the ability to get the performance out without sacrificing visuals. One example of this is ambient occlusion. When you look at foliage, and this is actually a live screenshot of something that they shared on the server. This screenshot here is actually a very poorly rendered screenshot if you think about it, because it is looking at a low poly foliage. It gives you great performance, but it really sucks on details. The way they do this is they pre-generate ambient occlusion layer for these type of trees with a certain type of algorithm, and that takes account for how far the branch is from the trunk itself and the types of leaves on the tree. Then you start to see gradient changes happening. Then you start to see things like the farther the branch is from a tree, and you also see the differences on the shades of leaves. And when you combine them together, you get this absolutely gorgeous, stunning image of the game world. Keep in mind, they're not working with photographs of the game world. They're actually creating a live dynamic world that we interact with on a daily basis. One of the challenges coming into Railborn is the fact that you are riding on a train, and so what this means is instead of walking through the world, you now travel through the world much quicker than you would think. The game world has to load and keep up, and if the player was moving on foot, you could just take your time, load the game little bits but here and there. But this game, you take the train, you go zoom, and you've got to load the world as quickly as possible. Thousands of objects have to be beamed in. You need to do this all without hitching, glitches, bugs, whatnot. They created something called super item system, and that they consider it a high hydration system. All of the objects are placed into a giant chunk. So think of Minecraft chunking, but instead of the block by block chunk, where you end up with an entire dehydrated area of data. For example, the yellow trees in this photograph is considered a single chunk, and all of this will get unloaded and reloaded when it's needed. So as you drive your train right over and crossing over the tracks there, all of those trees will instantly appear, and then as soon as you pass them and they're no longer needed, those trees will disappear. Each one of these nodes is essentially 30,000 objects that get loaded in the game. As the player gets close enough to interact with the objects, then they hydrate the data node, and that becomes digital water in a sense, so then you can interact with the real vibrant world, and the further away you go, it in a sense becomes like a painting. Again, the idea here is to prevent anything like glitches, hitching, bugs, stuttering, etc. as you're exploring the game world. Speaking of the in-game environment, remember that dinosaur from the trailer inside the rail car? Yes, this very dinosaur right here. Taki confirmed that this is not a statue. It's definitely a real dinosaur. I am looking forward to find out, 1, how do we catch this guy? 2, is he a pet? And 3, what can he eat that's not me? Getting back to VRAM. Looking at VRAM, why is Taki aiming for 4 GB of VRAM on high settings? Don't people today have more available capacity on their computers? Technically, 4 GB is still a popular choice on the Steam hardware, and they're basing a lot of their decisions with graphics, with performance, with optimization based on what Steam tells them is the most popular setting. 4 GB of VRAM is that popular setting in the hardware. Because of that, the Steam hardware survey then dictates a lot of what the developers have to do do to be able to release a game, and they want to shoot for, again, the most available players that can possibly play this game. If you can make a game that has the most popular gigabyte per VRAM, why not cater to that group so you can expand and access the game to the most available people to play, versus doing a niche where you only make it available to those who have supercomputers. Then that means you're only giving it to 100 people in the world. Therefore, their target GPU for Railborn is 1660 Ti for medium settings at 60 frames per second. Yes, they actually have an army of 1660 Ti laptops that run their game every single morning, consulting with this, looking at it, and seeing if the game can properly run not only at medium settings, but at 60 FPS. So what does this mean? The minimum quality for a GPU may not necessarily be a 1660 Ti. This just happened to be for medium settings, so therefore there is a low setting available somewhere, maybe at 30 FPS. And what type of graphic card will this be? We may have to wait a little bit on that, but they may be able to get away with a slightly lower graphic card than a 1660. But the fact that they're aiming for 1660 is a more popular graphic card that people may be able to have to be able to play the game effectively in a way where you don't have all the glitching and the stuttering and whatnot. A lot of people may have the more high-end 5080s, and keep that in mind, you're going to have a range of people with graphic card. You want to have this game have the most widest access possible. When you look at the Steam hardware and software surveys, this is essentially what comes up in terms of video card usage by manufacturers. Looking at the Steam hardware software survey, you can kind of see NVIDIA takes the cake in terms of graphics card. Everyone is practically working with the EX12 for the GPU and Windows 10. In terms of PC processing power, it's still about 50-50 between AMD and Intel. If you're looking at the number of CPUs per computer, you can see a wide range between 4, 2, 8, 6, etc. There's a wide dynamic of the number of CPUs available. Some of the more high-end CPUs are you're looking at 24 cores. Some people are still working with the 2 CPU cores, right? And you have to keep this in mind where they're playing games. When they look at performance, they do a variety of performance tests, and this performance test pulled in recent builds of Steam, and they run a bunch of in-game tests and then gives them the result. And every morning they look at whether or not the tests are actually picking up anything, or whether the test is reducing bugs over time. And the idea is to reduce and eliminate as many bugs as possible for when this game comes out. Between Taki and Smash, Smash is the one that's very good at optimization, and it's very easy again to fall into the Unreal trap of making a game look phenomenal for high-end hardware, but also be the worst running game in the world. Some people might know this by other games, by other names, but if you played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The question of whether or not Railborn was in development for 2 years, what started out originally as a question on the server was, how long till this game comes out? It's been 8 months since I've seen it on Steam. It was announced in January, been on my wish list since then. Keep in mind, there was some misperception, miscommunication, misunderstanding. This person here brought up this statement and said, hey, this game's been in development way too long. Is this an abandonware game? They even pulled up an AI search, which happened to say Steam launch on March 1st, 2023 in terms of first being added to the database. But keep in mind, first being added to the database does not equal release date for the game. As you notice, it says to be announced, and there's been no actual early access launch date. If you look at AI today and you ask the AI, when is Railborn out? Has it been released? Was it released in 2023? AI today will be much better at telling you the game Railborn was not released in 2023. In fact, its release date is December 31st of 2026, according to Game on the Air. Keep in mind, this is not actually true. This game has not been given an actual release date. AI is making up stuff. Keep in mind, AI makes mistakes, folks. Don't rely on AI for every last detail of your information. Now let's clear some things up by pulling up SteamDB data and hear it straight from the developers themselves. Looking at this from 2.4 years ago, 1st of March 2023 was the very first build on SteamDB. It required a token. That was pretty much all that they put on there. And as Taki himself explained, not that anyone cares, we made Railborn Developer in 2023, but back then it had no name or much of anything. We just revealed the game in June. What happens is every single time they run a check in Steam, it builds another build, it updates the token, it updates the change number, and the change log essentially gets changed. And if any of these fall below any particular value that they're looking for, then alarms go off. They can see exactly which of these check-in did it and what the problem was and how to fix it. And what this essentially means is Taki added either some asset, a texture, or something that's not supposed to be there. killed the FPS. If we go forward a little bit into January, right, you'll start to see this little pattern of the change number changing over and over, but no real assets have been technically added into Steam for this game to re-release. Trying to optimize the game, essentially the very boring process. A lot of it's automated. There's a lot of smoke testing. It's really interesting how little stuff can just sync performance. Think about doing a new way of cooking food and doing that and then finding out your FPS is just shot just because you did that. The problem with optimization, it is not really making the game itself. For example, in these screenshots here, you got a blurry screenshot and you got one that you can't see, and those were actually screenshots they uploaded to Steam. Why they uploaded these, I have no idea, but they exist. It wasn't until the reveal in June 2025 when TeamDB saw the store page get updated with the following days after the reveal. They now have categories for the different things such as survival, co-op, building, crafting, trains, etc., adventure, story rich, early access, and immersive sim. One of the things they added recently was it is a single player game, but it's also online co-op. They added Steam achievements, Steam Cloud, family sharing, and early access. However, no date has been set yet for early access. With that said, what is the news currently on joining the playtest or even joining the alpha? As Taki himself politely said, no one's participating in anything yet. This is all just internal development, folks. So we still gotta wait on the game. No release date yet, no dates for when we can join a playtest. But again, keep in mind the mailing list, keep in mind the Discord. I can put the links down below. That way you can keep tabs on this. And when it's ready, it will notify you and you could potentially join the playtest at some point. Looking at the change list recently, it's all the same sort of thing where they're doing test after test after test to make sure the game runs. As Taki said, it's like a bot that runs the game every single morning and tells us the results. It helps them check for things that break the build or kill performance, which is so easy to do when you're trying to code a game. With that said, I'm sure Railborn will be playable soon. The question is when. If you pull up the FAQ, it does say we plan to release early access sometime in 2026. That is not December 31st. Keep that in mind. Don't listen to the They will be releasing a demo of the game. Playtest will be coming sometime in 2025. As of right now, there's no concrete dates for any of this. With that said, they will be regularly posting updates in their development on Discord and on Steam. Special bonus for all of you watching today. What began as an off-the-wall joke about cooking food with the engine tea led to Taki actually loving the idea. Thank you again, folks, for tuning in, and please tell me in the comments what you're most excited for from Railborn. Is it the survival element? Is it the mobile base building? Is it exploring a new world? Is it doing the co-op and be able to play together with friends? While you're in the comments, why not subscribe and hit that notification bell for more? And speaking of more, if you'd like to know what else might be coming to Railborn, please definitely watch the next video starting right now.